Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. You joined me here at the Brewster, New York Supercharger, where I'm sure you've seen countless videos of YouTubers, journalists, car reviewers, testing out this new Magic Dock situation. In fact, my dad was here on the day that it opened with his Genesis GV60, my mother's car, testing it out. Well, now it's my turn. I happen to be in the area and I thought I'd share my opinion on Magic Dock, how I think it's all gonna go. And I've brought along a Lucid Air because I think this is a really interesting car. I just happen to be driving it. This is my dad's new Lucid. We also chipped in a little bit out of spec. So you'll see me with this car a bunch probably over the summer. I'll bring it out to Colorado for a few months and then it'll go back with my dad, its rightful owner. But I'm just getting a feel for it. And I thought, well, let's plug it into the Magic Dock. Let's see how it all works. I'd love to give you my take on this, although I'm sure most of you have already seen some Magic Dock videos. So let's get into it and we'll talk about some of the limitations of why the Lucid can't charge very fast here. I've done a whole video on that, but I'll touch on it, of course. And I also want to touch a little bit more on the version 4 Superchargers that we're already starting to see be installed in Europe. So it's now my turn to tell you everything you probably already know. There are now 11 stations here in America that have been opened up to non-Tesla cars being able to charge at Tesla Superchargers. In Europe, there are plenty of them. And in Europe, it's actually very easy for Tesla to open up supercharging sites to non-Tesla vehicles, and that's because they use a CCS plug for that particular market. Here in the US, Tesla uses its proprietary connection, which is, they're calling it the North American Charging Standard, and it's this. And I want to talk a lot about the Magic Dock activation. It's actually my first time ever using this situation right here. So I'm actually curious, are you able to kind of finagle this thing out of here? It doesn't totally feel well in there. We got to really talk about that connection. But in the US, Tesla needs to physically retrofit this area of the existing superchargers to house an adapter to charge CCS cars. Now, what I really like about this is Tesla isn't saying, if you want to use our network, buy a $200, $300, $400, $500 adapter to give you access to our chargers and then pay more money for them. What they're actually doing is retrofitting the adapter into the existing charging stations. Now, to get funding, there might be rules as to why they need to do that, whether it was out of the kindness of their own hearts or because they want to get some federal funding for expanding the network. I don't know, nor do I really care. This is the right way to do it. So I'm really glad whatever happened that led to this decision where Bolt owners, Lucid owners, Kia EV6 owners don't have to go and buy adapters to charge here. That's a good situation there. So big fan of that. So I think we should talk about technical limitations here really quick, and then we'll actually plug in the car and start charging. Let's go over to the cabinets over here. We're gonna walk through this dirt. I should also mention, why have we seen so many videos at this particular charging station in Brewster, New York? Marquez was here, Tom was here, my dad was here, Misco Electric was here. Everyone has been filming this particular charging station to show the Magic Dock expansion. It's honestly purely because this is the closest one to the New York metro area. So everyone comes up here and this is where they film. So take a look over here. This is a version 3 supercharging cabinet. And over here is the nameplate speeds and everything that it can do. The way these work is each one of these boxes here, you can see Supercharger 1 and Supercharger 2, can do about 375 kilowatts of charging power each. And each one of these can feed 4 charging posts, at least in the US. In Europe, there's some where they only feed 3, and that's because input voltage is a little lower. For example, if you have 4 cars charging on this one, they can't all get 375 kilowatts. You'd actually be tapered way down, 100-something kilowatts each, right? Maybe even less. But the cool thing is, there's actually a way for this charger to send extra power to this one, up to 575 kilowatts of input power here, I believe is actually what it's rated for. Let me take a look. 575 kilowatts of input power right there. And so what that allows it to do is, if you have a string of superchargers and everyone's plugged in on just the 4 that this one's connected to, it can juice up this and then distribute the power. So what's really cool is with a version 3 supercharger, it doesn't really matter where you plug into the charger on a site You just plug in and you're good to go. Now, I believe there's a limit of up to 4 or 5 of these that you can link together. So some of those bigger sites that are 50, 60, 80, 100 stalls that we're hearing about, there'll probably be blocks and sections of them linked. But that is the magic of Superchargers, is just this unbelievable combination on this DC bus that allows the whole site level power distribution, at least for smaller sites. Now, why am I nerding out about all of this? Well, the problem is with 800 volt cars or higher voltage cars can't charge very fast here. You see a Tesla plugging in a Model S Plaid or even a Model 3 long range can plug in and get 250 kilowatts right out of this little connection right here, which is just unbelievable. It's crazy, 600 and something amps through a cable this small. The problem is with 800 volt cars is the Superchargers aren't actually rated to go up there. So come take a look over here as well, and I'll show you this. So let's see if I can find DC output 0 to 500 volts right there. You can see it's rated at 631 amp output. I think it can actually stretch a little bit more than that, but 500 volt cap on the charger. And the pedestals here are also rated, if you take a look here, for 500 volts DC and 350 amp continuous charging cycle at 100% duty cycle. So when a Tesla plugs in, they're technically running this above the rated amount of power, but everything is temperature controlled. Tesla's always said there's no current limitation to its system. It's always temperature limitation, and that's the way it really should be. You know, whole amperage and arbitrary current limitation on a cable is really dumb. It's like you can run more current for less time. And so this works really well with Tesla's charging profile, where they'll push 600 amps when you plug in at 0%. They don't, no Tesla really holds peak power for that long. And so this connection doesn't melt itself. The thing is, when you plug in a normal car, let's say a Volkswagen ID4 or Rivian R1T, we've never seen them charging above 150 kilowatts. And that is because, come on back in here again, of this 350 amp nameplate limitation. It seems Tesla is uncomfortable going beyond this 350 amp limitation with the Magic Dock on any vehicle. We've never seen more than 150 kilowatt charging on any supercharger, unless you plug in a Tesla, of course. Then they ignore this and go full send when they use the main connector. What else? I'm getting pretty nerdy here. The problem with the 800 volt cars, let's walk over to that Lucid, is that 500 volt cap you saw on that particular charger right there. So when we plug in the Lucid, it has to actually turn itself into a lower voltage car. Otherwise, it's not possible to charge here. So the Lucid has something called a Wonder Box. The Taycan has a DC to DC booster. The EGMP cars like the GV60 use the rear motor's inverter to step up the voltage. I have a whole long video on this. But the Lucid's Wonder Box is only capable of charging at about 50 kilowatts peak. And honestly, that's going to show about 45, 44 kilowatts is what I'm hearing Lucid owners get. So that sounds pretty terrible. You're going to come to a Tesla Supercharger with your Lucid. You're going to spend more money than you would at EA, even though the cars come with free charging. So you're paying for charging, but I think it's like 40 to 50 cents per kilowatt hour, depending on which station you're at, and if you buy a $13 per month membership here to buy down the rate. My dad went over all of that in his main video. And then you're only going to get 50 kilowatts. So it's going to take over 2 hours to charge this car at a Tesla Supercharger. I mean, they got a Dunkin' Donuts and a Sherwin-Williams paint building right here, but that's a lot of paint shopping you got to do. Now, if you just happen to be at a Supercharger with a Lucid, sure, plug it in, but just make sure the station's empty because you'll be clogging it up. So that's kind of the downside to charging this car. I didn't really want to come here and see peak charging speeds. We know it's 350 amps. We've been through all that. It's not that exciting. So let's get this plugged in. Let me talk about the connection type, what I think about the action, the activation process. And then I do want to talk a little bit about version 4 Supercharger and some of the improvements to come. For example, cable gate and some other stuff. So let me open up the Tesla app right here. And so you can see here, I'm actually in Anna's app. I'm going to go over to the Charge Your Non-Tesla menu right here. And if you don't have any Teslas in your app, I'm pretty sure it looks a little bit different than this. Make sure we're on full brightness. Yes. So Charge Your Non-Tesla. Boom. Can you see that okay, Anna? Mm-hmm. We're in Brewster. So we're going to go here. And then actually, if you take a look, I'm going to hit charge here. If you take a look here, we are on 1A right now. So I'm gonna go here to get started, unlock adapter, start charging, stop charging, got it. Don't need any of that help. 1A. 48 cents a kilowatt hour. Idle fees, $1 per minute. So let's get started. Add payment method. All right, so we're gonna throw in Anna's credit card.
Yeah.
You'll pay for our charging. No, it's okay, I'll put in my credit card. And then we'll get the Lucid juicing up and we'll be good to go. Well, I've now added my credit card to Anna's account, so don't be buying Model S plaids on here, Anna. Let's hit 1A, unlock adapter, and I guess that's all we have to do. So now we'll come over here, and I believe the Tesla plug, just fell out. What's up with that? It says charging error, plug the cable back into post and try again. Okay, so here we are, back in and try again. Maybe I need to hit 1A and unlock adapter again. There we go, I just heard it click, pushing in and releasing. Okay, so that's really not that bad at all. I love that you just hook an adapter when you're already in there. So that's pretty sweet. Now to open the the Lucid charge port, you should just be able to click on this, but I think we determined that it's broken on this car. So warranty, and I'm gonna hand this to you to hold just for a second. I'm gonna go inside the system here and hit open charge port manually, charging open charge port. And then we're gonna plug it in. And I'm gonna tell you why I actually don't think it's a big deal or like a big engineering problem that Lucid doesn't charge that fast here. So first of all, we're holding a 150 kilowatt capable, 350 amp connection, and it's super flimsy and easy to maneuver. I'm just gonna go right here, plug it into the Lucid for the first time. So here we go, a little bit of an angle, and we're in. And that's honestly pretty simple. Open up the app, activate the charger, pay with Apple Pay or your credit card on file, and you're good to go. I mean, that is how it should be. Now the big question is, are we actually charging? So if you head to the passenger side, let's take a look inside the car here, and we can see if we are juicing. And in fact, we are. Take a look at this. Already up to 40 kilowatts using the Wonderbox here. Probably the first time this car's ever used the Wonderbox. And that's our peak, 45 kilowatts. 2 hours and 20 minutes from about, 25 or 30% to full. Okay, so let's go back outside. And we'll keep the Lucid charging, we may as well. Now, it's pretty incredible that Tesla's opening up the network. I think it's actually the biggest shift in automotive, in electric vehicle automotive, to happen in a long, long time. I don't think people realize how big of a deal this is. The reason it's such a big deal is our public charging networks, across all of them, the benchmark, the best possible one out there, sucks. And then everyone else is worse than sucks. So it's really a shame that everyone's saying buy electric, buy electric, buy electric. Here are all these options. We're incentivizing cars. And then you just give everyone the worst ownership experience because it's a pain in the butt to charge the cars. Now that Tesla, which has mastered the charging game, even for non-Tesla vehicles, is opening up the network, I think it's the saving grace to electric vehicles. Truly, I know it sounds crazy. I mean, it might be blowing it up, but I'm really not. This is what we've all been waiting for. You can see the cars unlocking and locking as I get, just 1 inch farther away. So this is freaking awesome. I just think it's amazing. There are limitations to this though. Cablegate, everyone's been talking about it. Let me tell you, it's a problem here at this particular station. These cables are not very long at all. You can see this is as far as they stretch out. Your charging port needs to be in reach of this cable. And the problem is a Tesla would normally back into this spot to charge here. But with other vehicles, for example, the Lucid, I would have to nose in here and then use this connection, which blocks this charger. That's been played out. Everyone knows about it. I agree, it's a problem. I actually thought when Tesla was gonna retrofit Magic Docks on Superchargers, they would have a little cord reel that I could pull and extend the cable out farther. And I thought that was gonna be what they were doing, like have it, kind of coiled up in here. There's really not much going on in the Supercharger. There's plenty of extra room behind here. I thought they were going to have a way where I could extend out the cable. Maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't. So with the current technology, there are limitations. There's the 500 volt cap, but it really seems to be around 450 volts. It doesn't want to charge higher than, which forces high voltage cars to use their booster, like the Lucid. And the Lucid's capped at 50 kilowatts. You have cable gate as a problem, and then you have pricing and availability. The price is so much more than pretty much any competing network out there, but you're paying for great charging locations, typically in safer places with better amenities, and you're paying for a fairly reliable charging experience. You guys know we now run Rate Your Charge, and that's my new business, and it's really, I think, going to be something amazing. I can't wait to show you what we're working on. We have heard issues with the Magic Dock charging certain cars, and I think really only the original Hyundai Ioniq 5, the early ones, the early eGMP cars, have handshake issues sometimes, and they even start charging and then stop after a few minutes. It seems the newer eGMP stuff with the newest software on it charges great. So if you have an original Ioniq 5, get it software updated and see if that improves your experience. The availability is only 11 sites right now, and they're mostly here in New York, and I believe there's 1 or 2 in California. And they're just doing this slow rollout. It's very clear that these version 3 Superchargers were not designed for other vehicles when they were doing site planning. Version 4 Superchargers will fix pretty much all of these issues that I'm talking about. First of all, they'll go up to 1,000 volts. So you'll be able to charge this Lucid Air, match the pack voltage, not have to use the booster, won't have to use a booster in an Audi e-tron GT or a Taycan. You can just dump the current in and bypass the in-car booster. That'll be great. The second thing is longer cables. The version 4 Supercharger, as I understand it, will be taller than the version 3, and the cable will actually run along the perimeter of the outside. Now, the big deal of version 4 Superchargers are immersion cooled cables, which means they can be longer, and the cable's basically soaking in dielectric coolant fluid of some kind, and it'll be pumped through, and that is where they can get some super high current ratings. I'm really looking forward to that. So Tesla knows about the issue, and they'll be putting longer chargers on. That still doesn't fix stations like this. Maybe they'll get the new pedestals for version 4. I want to make some notes about version 4 Superchargers. There's this new one in the Netherlands that just went in. I was actually going to fly there a few days ago to check it out until I realized it's really not that interesting. The only difference at that version 4 Supercharger right now is the pedestal. As far as we can tell, the cabinets, the charging components back there are the same as version 3. So what I think the version 4 charger actually is testing the dispensers, which are not open to all cars yet. They're just locked for Teslas at the moment. And this is in March of 2023, end of March. And I'm pretty sure they're just testing the new dispensers of version 4, which are 1,000 volts, 615 amp nameplate rated. I think somewhere around there is 650. So, you know, you're talking 600 kilowatts if a car has 1,000 volts on it, but no car really is that high yet, except for the Lucid, and it's not quite 1,000 and can't even pull high power when it's up that voltage. We'll save that for an out-of-spec podcast episode. So there was nothing really interesting going on there other than the new post. The charging equipment seems to be the same. I'm really looking forward to seeing the new version 4 chargers, not just the dispensers. Hopefully that gets launched as a product sometime soon. So to sort of wrap it up, come on in here and let's just talk about this adapter. Let's talk about the Tesla experience. The problem with using version 3 Superchargers, or even version 2 Superchargers especially, was the old locking mechanism for the handle. You used to have to put it in that hook and it would rest right on this little latch under here, and that's what would hold it up in there. And that was a fairly okay experience. Although, Anna, do you remember when we were in New Mexico and the wind was blowing and they all blew out of their holsters?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was always a problem, was wind. If they were really cold, the cables get stiff. They would not want to latch into their connector. So I really think that this is a much more sturdy holster going into this Magic Dock adapter than using the other one. Now, in here, I can wiggle it and move it a little bit. Some people were saying that you can even actually rip it completely out. I'm not going to try that, but apparently you can, so that's kind of interesting. The actual Tesla docking handle, though, much better here. Really, really like this. I'm actually fairly certain the cables are slightly thinner or slightly shorter than normal version 3 Superchargers, because normally this would be held up here, and I think they may have the same thing. We didn't bring a measuring tape with us, but I'd love to actually measure the length of this cable compared to a standard version 3 without Magic Dock. I know they changed all the cables when they put the adapter in there. And then the adapter is really a wonderful piece. So let's unplug the Lucid and talk a little bit about the adapter. It's not like we're getting much charging power anyway. This is really cool. So with the Tesla situation, I can't unplug it at all. It's doing 50 kilowatts. It's still charging. It's all good. If I push this button on top of the Tesla Supercharger, it does stop charging, but I still can't release it. So this still sends the stop charging signal. And then this button right here breaks the metal latch to the car and then allows me to unplug. Now this being a metal, serious, solid piece is really good. And it also looks like they made this top bit of the CCS connector serviceable, because we all know that these latches break all the time. This is way sturdier than a typical Huber Schuner or Phoenix contact latch at the top of the cable. Really love to see this. And then these are not replaceable. Typically you would see screws here for a user serviceable side of the actual charging plug. I'm not seeing anything here, but Tesla can just replace this adapter for a couple $100. Their cost maybe even $50 or less, who knows? It's just a dumb adapter. And then they're good to go. So I really like the serviceability. I like that you can't steal this from Tesla. I mean, I'm trying everything I can right now, and there's nothing I can do to actually break this connection. Really a high quality piece. And if you take a look up in here in the Magic Dock, you'll see how it latches. You'll actually see some AC communication pins in here, up in there, which is interesting. And I assume that low voltage communication is what's used to latch and unlatch the actual charging adapter. Now, I'm curious, if I put this away, instantly it doesn't let me take it out again. I mean, it just instantly locks right in there. So very, very good engineering by Tesla of that whole system. It's so slick, it's so cool. So to give you my final thoughts on using the Magic Dock Supercharger for the first time, which is really, everyone else has beat me to it. I was gonna fly over here the day it opened up, but my dad said he would shoot the video, so I thought it came out great. I love that Tesla's opening up their chargers. I don't like this 350 amp limitation using the Magic Dock. I wish they would give full power. I don't like the 500 volt limitation with version 3 equipment. And by the way, everyone's saying that Lucid only charges at 50 kilowatts. Taycan only does 50 kilowatts unless you option the 150. This was never a problem in the US when these cars were designed. Most of the low voltage cap chargers that were available for these cars to charge on were only 50 kilowatts. So I see there's a lot of hate towards Lucid out online saying they should have spec'd a higher Wonderbox. Well, now knowing that the Supercharger is doing this, they should do it now. But when they engineered the car, it would have honestly been a waste. I don't think there would have been one application where they would have needed a Wonderbox at more than 50 kilowatts, unless they were going to Europe, which they are now. Because in Europe, you'll find higher power, low voltage cap chargers. So, you know, my take on that was just like, no one thought that this would be an issue. Version 4 Superchargers being installed should fix that as well. I love the app activation through Tesla. I really hope we see ISO 15118 plug and charge work here. The only thing is I don't know how they would unlock the Magic Dock without doing the app. Maybe just you pull for the Tesla and you push in for the Magic Dock. That could be. But that'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Because right now there's no way to do plug and charge without app activation unless nope, there's just no way, because you have to activate the app and it releases the CCS connector. Yeah, I mean, I really think Tesla is just going to win the charging business. And yeah, they make great cars. I love my Teslas, but I think their key selling point, their key competency will be energy and charging. And we better hold on tight because I think they're taking over. So there you go. We charged the Lucid Air for the first time at a Tesla Supercharger with the Magic Dock at the same charging station that everyone's been coming to here in Brewster, New York. And yeah, I just couldn't be more thrilled. I think it's such a great thing for the EV industry. I just hope Cablegate doesn't become that big of a deal and Supercharger V4 rolls out ASAP as possible, as Michael Scott would say. Thanks so much for watching another Out of Spec Reviews video. See you in another one soon. Bye-bye.